To begin with, I would like to map appropriate grades over here for each score given. Now we have scores for 10 students. That would be the average scores. And based on the average scores, I would like to assign appropriate grades from here. Now in Excel, there are different ways of achieving this. But first, since we are focusing on the logical functions, let us test it out. But first, how do I come to know what is the grade for 72.5? Well, one easiest way would be to use the if function. That is, if 72.5 is less than 50, that means it's an F grade. And then another if function, if it is less than 60, then E grade, less than 70, D grade, less than 80, C grade, less than 90, B grade, and less than 100, then A grade. But if it is equal to 100, then it's an A plus grade. And that's quite interesting. But having multiple layers of if function is quite troublesome. So we have another good function called as IFS function. Now here we get to test multiple criteria at the same time and also get the appropriate results. So here in this case, I would check if 72 is less than 50. And now I'll log the row reference for 50 as I would be copying this formula down. If it is less than 50, that means it's an F grade, and also log the row reference for the F grade. And then I would like to know if it is less than 60, then I call it as a D grade. So we have $sign again. It's not the D grade, it's the E grade. Now it's difficult to click on the E as this particular small box over here has occupied that area screen space. So I'll click on D and then use the keyboard arrow keys. I press up and E grade is highlighted. Again, I log the row reference. Now I need to check if 72.5 is less than 70. I log the reference again, comma. If it is less than 70, then it must be a D grade. And then further, is this less than 80? Well, that's true. We can see that it is less than 80, comma. I want this to be under the C grade. Moving on, is this less than 90? If that's the case, then enter B. But if it is less than 100, then it is A grade. And finally, if this is equal to 100, then we need a A plus grade here. Close the bracket, and that's it. Well, how did we get C grade over here? Because 72.5 is less than 80, then we get the C grade, but it is also less than 90, then why not the B grade, and why not A grade when it is less than 100 as well? It meets all the three criteria over here, that is less than 100, then less than 90, and less than 80. But it took out the value, or it executed the result for this particular test case, that is less than 80. Why did this happen? Well, it goes in a sequential order. First, it checks whether this condition is true. If it is true, it will execute this and then exit out of this function. It will not bother whether any of these are true. So we could have had a problem if we would have selected like, is C3 greater than or equal to 0? Well, it is true. So right at this point itself, it would have ended the function and we wouldn't have ever known whether the score was worth to be given a B grade or A grade or C grade. It would have just ended at the F grade or E grade. So we need to be careful when we are using greater than or less than or equal sign here. In this case, it's the less than, and hence this case of fail did not match. The E grade case did not match. The D grade did not match, but the C grade matched. Why? Because it's less than 80 And I'm sure very much so far that it is not less than 70. Otherwise, it would have executed any of the earlier conditions. It did not happen. So C is the answer. And the moment it matches that it is less than 80, there is a first true criteria that it receives. Immediately it returns the result and exits the if function. It does not bother to check further. And that helps us. Select this down and see. Well, in case if you want to randomly cross-check, take a look here. Craig Nelson, 59.5, E grade. Yes, even if this were 59.99, you would still end up getting the E grade. Why? Because it is not 60. Now, when I say less than the number, let's say here in this case, it is less than 70. That means if this is false, that means the value is greater than or equal to 80. That is how it tests it. Now, this is something we achieved using the IFS function, and having multiple layers of if function would have been quite troublesome in this case.